I'm going to do an insight video today. Over the last couple of days or last couple of weeks, I've been sort of like going through a bit of a like transformation happening, and a lot of the sort of like stuff that I've been receiving is very much around sort of like centeredness. Is very much around um, universal law of like correspondence. Again, it's about anchoring. So there's a lot in this at the moment, and what's meant by this, is that I feel like with the energies and um, sort of like the sort of insight and the awareness that we're being given at the moment is very much around sort of again about creation and about going within. And what does this really mean? What does this mean for you? It's like on your spiritual evolution, on your spiritual journey, and how does this work, and what does it look like? All these kind of questions. And for me, it's like centeredness is being sort of like in your energy, in your center. And what's meant by that is being out of your mind and being in your energy. And the thing is, sort of like when you're in that insight, you're in that awareness, and you're in that sort of like sacred space. You do get thoughts, you do get feelings that come into your mind, or you get thoughts that come into your mind. But what's happening is when you're in that centered space and you're in that centeredness where you're connected to your own vibration, your own source creation, is you're actually sort of developing it and creating a different level of consciousness. Now, this is happening individually for you or on an individual level within your own life, but it's also affecting, and it's also sort of vibrating and helping to lift the frequency of the planet as well. As I was just walking back, I was just like connecting into the energy, and I have these sort of like centers and these feelings when I walk on the earth, whether I'm walking on concrete, whether I'm walking on grass, whether I'm walking anywhere. I can feel like a vibration. I feel like a vibration of light. I feel like the whole world becomes this light vibration, and it's sort of like it's alive and it's vibrating, and I feel like my body starts to align with that. So for me, when this kind of like sense and feeling comes through, again, this is about being centered. This is about being anchored. This is about being connected. Firstly, like again on an individual level, within your own sort of like source energy and your source light vibration, but it's also connecting to the earth's vibration, the earth's frequency, and you're starting to feel that vibrancy, that aliveness, that's source energy that's in all things, which is part of all creation. Anchoring again is another thing that's really really important, and I feel like this is something that I've been sort of like shown over the last couple of days. I've probably had like a few weeks of lots of stuff going on where I'm feeling like I've been sort of like my consciousness is connected to like the external world a bit, and my thoughts and my feelings are connected to that, especially around sort of like external stresses, external things that have been going on. I've just had like my mum wasn't very well, and I live in the Midlands, but my mum lives in like in Devon, so I had to sort of go down and sort of like be there for her. So there's things like that going on where where there's external things happening, and it's about sort of like when you become attached to them, when you become um, yeah, attached to the external stresses that are going on, then that takes you away from your center, takes you away from your centeredness. Um, and over the last couple of weeks, I've had that going on in my own life. And I was sitting there at the gym yesterday. I was just doing a bit of a run on there, and my wife had talked to me. So like, there's lessons in everything. Your awareness is, and your conscious levels are being sort of affected by many different things. But like, you've got things around you. You've got relationships. You've got people. You've got events, and you've got opportunities that actually, when they start to when you start to look at them and you reflect upon them, you find um, there's information in there that you can start to use. So there's been a lot of things going on for me externally, and I haven't been probably as centered as I could be. And this is where yesterday I was sitting I was just like running on a treadmill. I was going to the gym, and usually when I go to the gym, it's sort of like it releases all the kind of energy that I've absorbed within my field, and it allows me just to release some of that, and it creates space, and it allows space for me to be sort of like in my own energy, my own space, without anything externally affecting me. And I was just running on the treadmill yesterday, and this was coming to me about being centered. It was about being aligned We know about being aligned and being centered, but the thing is, for me, how it works is like at presently, I'm sort of like when I'm saying about centered, I feel like I go into my energy and I try and stay in that energy, because it's the external sort of stuff that's going on is all sort of like distracting, but there's a lot of stuff going on there that you become attached to. You know, you become attached to things that you know in your normal life, where your bills and your work and all that kind of stuff. And the key to sort of like the universal law of correspondence is that you start to see that that source energy, that source creation, that source vibration is within you. But what you start to do is you live within it, and that's the next step. That's the next step of living within that energy. So, and also, I've had this feeling from many times in my life where I always feel like when I'm in that sort of like that sacred space, I'm sort of like I'm within, looking out, and it's a strange sort of like feeling to explain to people. But when I'm in that energy, it's like my human form is there, but it's not what I am. You know, my energy and my spirit and my light is far beyond that, and so it's not like you're disconnected from it, but you're living life on a very different sort of level of consciousness. And I've experienced this many times before, and even to the degree that you know I walk around in this world in that kind of phase, into that kind of let state of consciousness where you're in a light, you're in an energy, and it's like it's strange because you do feel like the external world is something. It's not separate from you, but it's not. You know, there's much more to what you are in your being when you're in that kind of energy. So you look at the external world, and it sort of it doesn't feel separate, but it feels like it's, like I said, fluid. It's like you look, you've got an energy, you've got a vibration that you're in, and my level of consciousness looks at the external world in a very different way. That's probably a better way to explain it. When I'm sort of like in that kind of state of being, I look at the external world and I look at it from a very different perspective. I look at it from a very spiritual perspective, and it's a very sort of like different way of looking at things. And again, you can see the shift because when you're in that kind of level of awareness, there's an unconditional thing. You're looking for like looking at unconditional ways of how to deal with sort of like external reality, external stresses, but you're also looking for ways of being in harmony and aligning them. The main sort of like the main sort of like the main sort of feeling you have is, you know, where can I get peace, where can I get presence from, where can I get harmony from. And when you're in that kind of state, you look at the external world in a very different way, and you look at people in a very different way. um, and those things that you know usually would sort of tip you over, or would affect you, or would distract you, don't, because you're in a different place. So when you're in that kind of external sort of internal world of the universal law of correspondence, where you actually start to sit in your inner light, your inner energy, you also open up your channel to start to receive a different way of being, and you receive different energy and different insights, and your consciousness shifts. And this is what this time's about, and this is why anchoring is really important, and this is why centeredness is really important. And I feel like this is sort of like connects all into a lot of the things that I've been talking about lately, where I talk about illumination, which is again walking in your own light, walking in your own energy, walking in your own source being. But it's also you access that source being and you access that energy when you're in that sort of like state, or that sacred space. Again, when I talk about the universal law of correspondence, that's what it is. It's being in your own energy, your own light, and it's walking in that vibration, walking in that frequency, and being consciously aware that you know that when you're walking through the world as this sort of illumined being, or this enlightened being, that you're applying your consciousness and your awareness in a way that isn't sort of like being distracted, or it isn't being sort of you're not creating in a way that's creating disharmony, or it's creating sort of like impact on other people, and it's creating sort of like you know we're always looking at our frequencies, we're always looking at our energy, we're always looking at our feelings, and how we're using that energy. I think that So like consciousness, you know, when you're in that kind of state of being and that sacred space, um, you're always looking about how you can come back to peace, how you can come back to harmony, but you're also looking at your actions, your feelings, your thoughts, and how that can be used in the best outcome, not just for yourself but for all beings. And this is kind of source energy working through you and integrating and being part of you, because that's what source energy is. Source energy is the infinite creation, the infinite frequency of all creation, of all life. It's all consciousness, and when you're in that kind of state, you start to see, you know, because you come from a place where you start to look, well, you know, if I choose to act this way, how does this impact somebody else? But also, what, you know, how do I make a choice in my life that creates the best outcome for all people that are involved and all beings that are involved? And this is the shift. This is a shift in awareness. This is a shift in frequency. This is a shift, the new shift for many of us. I mean, I get this in healing now. When healing, um, you know, even like sort of like when you're looking at healing, you can call upon angels like Azrael. So say somebody's gone through like some sort of grieving process. You don't just look at that individual that's going through the grief. You look at all the individuals around them that have been impacted by that. But you also look at stuff as well. Say somebody's in hospital or something like that, and they're going through sort of an operation, or they're going through something quite serious that's affected their physical life and also their quality of life. You'd bring it. You'd look at the Archangel Raphael, and you'd you know, Archangel Raphael is like this infinite being, that sort of like is all about healing, source healing, sort of like soul healing, but also it affects all like any sort of like aspect, any frequency, any energy that's around healing. Raphael connects to this. So you also sort of like send Raphael to that being, and you start to look at sort of how that energy or those angels can help work with the medical people, the nurses, the people like that. So it's like a whole different way of looking at sort of like the world, and situations, events, but also how you start to see that you're connected to these angels, to these other beings of light, and actually you walk as this light. You are that being of light, and you start to see that your consciousness, and when you send your energy out there, that it connects to these other sort of like beings and these other dimensions and these other realities as well, and how we're all connected. We're all part of the same source energy. And again, this is the shift in consciousness. This is a shift in awareness where you start to see, is for all beings, and this is how source energy works and source light works. It's about that, and this is what I feel like is the shift, you know. And this is what they had in Atlantis. They had Lemuria. They realised that they weren't disconnected, and they were connected to all these infinite realms of light and these infinite beings of light and these angels and all these other guiding beings that work with us. And when you start to realise that, you shift and change. And this is what I feel like is happening very much in my own journey at the moment. And you know, I don't know whether this is happening to everybody else, but this is how I feel in my own journey. When you're centered and you're in that sacred space, you're looking for how things connect and how things impact, but also the best outcome for everybody and all beings involved. And this is how the spiritual world works. You know, everything is about harmony, everything's about balance, everything's about what can bring peace as well. And this is how you align, and this is how you connect, and this is the shift in consciousness, and this is the awakening as well for many of us spiritual beings, when we start to walk as that light and walk in that way and walk in that consciousness, and start to see how all beings are connected and all part of the same source. But also when we start to see how we look at our emotions, our feelings, our energy, and how we use it, but also how we use it in the way that everybody um, everybody that's involved in that situation, the highest outcome for them. How you know, how can we use our energy, and when we use it in that way, how does it affect other people? It's a shift. It's a shift to having more compassion, more understanding, and walking in a way that's more consciously evolved and consciously aware. And this is what this time's about, and I feel this is what the teachings are about. But this is why I think also, a lot of it starts with that sort of like that inner world and being centered and being anchored, and anchoring the energy down. So that's the insight for today.